Hi, and good evening. My name is David. I use he, him pronouns, and today I am facilitating a game of Once More Into the Void. Once More Into the Void is a game based on the Firebrands rule set by Vincent and Meg Ray Baker. And it is a game by Jamila Nejadi. It's a game about the crew of a spaceship who have kind of stopped flying together, but who've all been drawn back together for one final mission against against an old enemy, which is kind of inspired by things like Mass Effect 2 in particular. And the Star Trek Picard series, which I will confess to not having seen, so I can't speak to the specific inspirations on that. But yeah, this game is currently the version that we will be playing this evening is currently available on itch.io. But Jamie is currently running a Kickstarter for a hardcover version and a slightly expanded version of the game that launched the other day, has already funded, and I'll put a link to that in the chat down below for anyone who is watching this video in the small window between now and whenever when the Kickstarter ends. This game has been arranged through the Gauntlet, which is an online role-playing group. We arrange games like this through a calendar of sort of sign-ups for online gaming. We also have a number of podcasts, as well as a monthly game magazine called Codex, which has all sorts of stuff for OSR, indie story games, and the like, both for existing games and also new and original content. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, do check out the website at gauntlet-rpg.com. Again, I'll put a link to that down below. So that is, broadly speaking, who we are and what we are playing this evening. I'm going to go into a more in-depth discussion of the game in a moment, but before I do that, I'm going to ask my players to introduce themselves. I'm just going to go across in the order I can see people on my screen. So, Rich, if you'd like to start off.
You bet. My name is Rich. I use the he, him pronouns, and I'm excited to give this a shot. I usually run, but David often pitches these games that I can't resist, and so here I am playing. Although this is GM-less, so I guess we're all GMs, which is good. And I do the +1 Forward podcast, which is about Powered by the Apocalypse games, which this technically is? Question mark?
Definitely by the fact that I think the Bakers have said it is, and therefore by word of God it is. So yeah.
There you go.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And Joe, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hey everybody, my name is Joe. I use he, him pronouns. I've played some games on the Gauntlet. I'm running a game next month that I'm really looking forward to. Yeah, and last time David and I played together, we were playing Thirsty Sword Lesbians in Greece.
Indeed.
And that was a lot of fun, so I'm looking forward to this.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And yeah, last but not least, Brandon, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Brandon. I've been with the Gauntlet since about the middle of last year, having a marvelous time, and I adore the genre of this game. Both the setting and the situation, the positioning of the characters and their raison d'etre. So I'm very enthusiastic to play.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Yeah, so I'm just going to do a hopefully relatively brief introduction to the game, though I do tend to ramble. I'm going to go through what we refer to as the CATS. So this stands for Concept, Aim, Tone, and Subject Matter. It's just a quick way of kind of going over the kind of touchstones and what this game is about, essentially, before we all begin, so we all kind of enter it with a bit of understanding of what we're letting ourselves in for. So yeah, start off with the concept. So as I mentioned, it's Once More Into the Void is by Jamil and Jadi. It's based on Firebrands. It's about as I said, sci-fi game of an old crew of a military starship coming back for one last mission against their old enemy. So the thing that's a bit different from many other games, certainly many other games that I usually run, which tend to be more into the purist PBTA, shall we call it, end of the spectrum. Firebrands doesn't have kind of any sort of core mechanics like some games do. What it instead has is a number of mini games, essentially. So each of these mini games has its own little section of rules and how it's played and who plays it. And each one of these mini games essentially forms a scene or forms the core of a scene around which we'll play. So that's kind of the big twist. It's not quite the right word, but the sort of the most unusual thing about the concept of the game, I suppose, compared to many others. It is a GMless game. We will each be playing a character in this game. I will be kind of taking a facilitating role as well, but I won't be kind of running the game per se. The other thing as well, perhaps unlike some other GMless type games, we don't really have a kind of, there's not even like a kind of rotating GM role for most of the time. In general, our play will be very focused on the characters we are playing. We won't really have much interaction with NPCs and the like. That sort of stuff will be handled in a more narrative fashion. We might describe what we have been doing or what we will be doing and the like, but we're not going to be getting into long conversations with NPCs or anything like that. The drama and the interaction of the game is very much focused on the player characters interacting with one another. As I say, we'll kind of once we get into things, we'll be going around in order, picking a mini game that interests us. I'll introduce these in a little more detail later on. The way the game begins and ends is a little more structured. There are a specific set of scenes that we do at the beginning of the game. There is a specific mini game that we end our game with. Everything in between is shaped by what we're interested in. So we'll sort of come onto that later. Just to, as I did mention before I started recording, this game is scheduled for 3 sessions. I would say generally, from my experience, this game can be run in 2, but I wanted to give us a bit more breathing space. If we feel like we've reached or are reaching a logical endpoint next week and decide we want to sort of go into the final mission then and there, that's fine. We can do that, and we'll just do it in 2 sessions instead. I suspect that we will go into a 3rd session, but we will check on that more next time, where we feel we're up to. The aim of the game, I've kind of touched on some of this already, but the sort of the narrative aim of this game is, as I say, it's about the captain recruiting his old crewmates back together again, or her, or there, and rebuilding them back up again into a cohesive unit and fighting their foe. And essentially the final mini game is that final confrontation, that final mission, where everyone will put their lives on the line, and we'll see if we prevail or not, and who comes back from the mission and who doesn't, and all that sort of military sci-fi drama that we might expect. As I say, kind of as I touched on, it will be down to us all as players to kind of shape the scenes and shape the narrative and where it goes. We won't be having we don't really have any GM roles as such around. There is one character that has to be played. Unsurprisingly, this is the captain. The one player will need to take on the role of the captain, which again, it's still not like a GM role or anything. They have some slightly, they occasionally have some kind of slightly more decisive roles to take in some of the mini games, as we'll see as we go through. If no one else is interested in playing the captain, I will take that role on, but I am also not sold on it, so if someone else wants to do that, is absolutely fine. In terms of like what I think is we're kind of looking to get out of, or we can expect to get out of this game, is it's really about exploring the relationships between the characters, and how sort of learning about their shared history, the problems they've had in the past, if and how they can overcome those, what things can't be overcome and what things can't be forgiven, all that sort of stuff. And that sort of drama is really the core of this game. Some of the scenes that we will be playing out are more action oriented, but still that action is more about seeing how two or more of the characters work together under pressure, rather than looking at how sort of how obstacles are overcome and that sort of thing. There isn't really much of a there's not really a kind of a conflict resolution mechanic as such to this game. It's not about, some of the mini games will kind of have a bit of a success or failure baked into them, but in general it's not about like, oh, can we fight the pirates and win. It's about, when we are fighting the pirates, do we have each other's back, or are we too old for this? Are we too old for this? And all that sort of thing. So tone-wise, again, sort of mentioned those kind of key inspirations already. I say one of which I'm less familiar with, of Star Trek Picard and Mass Effect 2 in particular. So we're looking at that kind of slightly military sci-fi aesthetic and tone. There will be danger, there will be combat, but the focus, as I said, is on that kind of character drama. That's really where we're looking at. So there'll be kind of space for moments of lightheartedness and camaraderie and warmth and all that sort of stuff in it, but like it's probably going to be tonally speaking on the more serious side, on the more dramatic side of things. As I say, I am not familiar with Picard in specific, or honestly Star Trek in general, all that much. So, I have absolutely no problem with people bringing those sort of inspirations in. Just I have very little background in that myself. So that is, that is where we're at on that. Said Mass Effect much more where I am familiar with this sort of thing from. I will actually we'll have in a little bit, we'll have a proper discussion about the specifics of the fiction that we want to be working with, and we'll check in with that in a little bit. But yeah, as I say, what I would say is I'm not a huge sci-fi person in general. My sort of interest in sci-fi tends to be a lot more at the kind of Mass Effect, Star Wars, pulpier end of things, and I'm happy to accommodate what other interests people have, but the very hard sci-fi is just not something I'm super au fait with. So it's less of a useful touchstone for me. The other thing I will kind of touch on, as well as in which I didn't actually put in my initial document, is, as I said, we're kind of going for that kind of military sci-fi and relatively serious sort of thing. I would like to avoid us getting too kind of grimdark, just because honestly, the minute that's the last thing I need really. But we'll have a proper discussion on that, as I said, in a moment. We'll get sort of some ideas going on that front. But yeah, there is enough. It's been a year, so cool. So last thing I want to touch on is subject matter, and our safety tools and stuff in general. So in terms of subject matter of this game, there will be some exploration of violence and combat, specifically as members of a military or paramilitary force. Again, try and avoid anything too like gory when it comes to the violence. Just it's always difficult to put a line in the sand and that sort of thing. But yeah, just not kind of too much gratuitous gore, I think, for descriptions of stuff. But yeah, so the violence is the thing that will be kind of in the background of what we do. In general, the final game is a little different on this one. In general, death of characters is unlikely to happen, and if it does happen, it's likely to be a voluntary decision. There's one other mini game that's a bit of an exception to that potentially. We'll have a little more discussion on that later on. But so it's like you don't have to worry too much about actual like death of characters and stuff, but the general air of that danger is something that kind of pervades the setting. Romance is also something that can potentially come up. As I say, we are focusing quite heavily in this game on intercharacter relationships, and that can include potentially romantic relationships. One of the mini games is, or at least can be, not again, we won't be going into any sort of graphic depictions of sexual encounters, but it's one of the mini games can be quite sensual in its descriptions and what goes on in it. So just be aware of that one. We will be touching in our safety tools in a second on consent when it comes to romantic interactions between characters. But also I'll get into that in a little bit. Finally, yeah, said relationships are quite important in general, and in particular, we are likely to touch on relationships that are in some way toxic or flawed, or relationships that have broken down, all of that sort of thing. Relationships where there's just complicated pasts in general. This also spills over into some of the mini games. A couple of those can have, again, our kind of modeling like argument and sort of fraught interactions. So sort of, again, I'll flag those up once we sort of get into play proper. There is in particular one mini game that can introduce an element of inter-party betrayal in it. Very, very specifically, this one is an optional one. If we decide we do not want to play with that mini game on the table at all, we can just put it to the side. If we're happy with it, we can leave it there. That still doesn't necessarily mean anyone will choose it, but we'll have that discussion. So yeah, that is, as I said, that is there. In terms of our safety tools, we'll be going in a minute through our lines and veils. So that's one thing. I'll touch on those in a moment. We'll also be playing with the X card in play. I think I've played with everyone here, so I know you're all familiar, but I'll just go over again quickly. The X card can be used if any content comes up that you're not happy with being in the game. You can just invoke the X card, and we'll stop with that content. We'll remove it. We'll avoid it in future if that's what you want to do. This can be anything. This can be maybe we miss one of our lines or something, and something comes up that shouldn't, or that you don't realize you didn't want in there until it comes up. It could be like just a name or something you don't want an NPC with a certain name. Again, not so much of an issue in this game because we don't have many NPCs kicking around, or even just something you feel is a bit tonally off and just doesn't really mesh with what's been established so far. We can use the X card for any of those scenarios and others I might have mentioned there. You can invoke the X by sort of doing an X with your hands, by putting an X in the chat at the side, though as I usually say, the quickest way of sort of getting my attention is just to say over voice. I am frequently, particularly actually in this game, as we'll come on to in a minute, I will often be tabbed out into other screens. So if something is purely visual, I might not see it. if you do notice that somebody has put an X in chat or something and they haven't called out, feel free to call out on their behalf, so that if it looks like I'm, not paying attention. That's the X card. Oh yeah, as I said, I may need to clarify what's being X'd, but I won't ask you to justify why you want it out. If you do, that's enough. We'll remove it. We'll work out how to go on from there. We'll also be using script change. Script change has a number of different tools. Oh, actually, I think I have forgotten to put that PDF into the shared folder, but I will do that over the break. Script change has a number of different sort of commands, a bit like a video remote control. The most useful ones of these, I think, are pause, which can be used at any moment if we just want to stop the game for a minute. Whether that is to have an out-of-character discussion about something that's going on in the scene, or it might be because you've got a phone call, doorbell's going, something like that, and you just need to leave in the middle of a scene or whatever. You can just call out pause just to let us know that we need to take a quick break from that. Basically, anything that you just want to interrupt the flow of the game for, you can just call out pause. Again, you don't have to use the specific command word. You can just say, "Can we take a moment" or whatever. But that command word is there if you wish to use it. We also have rewind, which can be used to retcon something that's just happened, to do it slightly differently, whether that be because you think you just didn't phrase something quite the way you wanted to, or you want to do something a little bit differently, or you're not happy with the way a scene is going, you want to just take a step back so that we can go in a different direction. Rewind can be used for any of that sort of those sort of ideas. Can be quite useful, actually, I think, as well, particularly in this game, because as we'll see once we get into the mini games, the way some of them are phrased, sometimes you might think, oh, actually, I've not quite hit what I was trying to aim for. I want to do it a little bit differently. Last one that I think can be useful is fast forward. This can be used if we just want to kind of skip over something quickly. Again, so this is can be used a bit like a veil if something's, if a sort of description is getting a bit too into blood and guts or something, and you just want to say, actually, can we just, we've seen enough, can we just move on to what happens next rather than dwelling on that particular moment? Or it might be that kind of we feel a scene has just is just kind of circling around a bit, and we want to get to kind of the crux, the decision point, or something like that. We can also call that fast forward for that. Yeah, as I mentioned, we will also be using lines and veils. We will on the safety and tools tab, safety and resources tab, there is a little lines and veils chart on the left there. I will in a second pause so that we can have the pause recording, so we can have a discussion without recording it on this. But broadly speaking, what we've got here are the particular pieces of content that I have sort of thought of in advance, or in this case, cribbed from my last fleet character keeper. We have a column for lines. Lines are things that we don't want to see come up at all in the game. That includes, inclusion in character backstory, as well as sort of stuff coming up in actual play, even just like kind of stuff that we probably want to avoid too much discussion about out of character as well. Anything that we don't want to see at all, we can put just a line on that, and we won't touch on that. Veils are things where we're okay with that content being present in the game, but we just don't want like it to be either the focus of our play, or we don't want to go into too much detail on it. Anything like that, we can just call a veil and say, yeah, we don't want to go into too much detail on any of that. We also got there a column for ask first. This is for stuff that is where we are, again, okay with that content being present, but we just want to kind of check in before we introduce it, so that we're sure everyone's happy with it and happy with the way we are using it. That is that's kind of where we've got that in there. It's just as a sort of reminder. And then finally, we've got stuff that is interested. This is either stuff that we we would like to see, that we want to come up in play. And we you know, or in the case of some of the ones that I've preloaded in here, stuff that I think is likely to come up in play because of the nature of the game. So those are our lines and veils. If you do want to, also there's a column on there. If you have any notes, for instance, if you're like, I'm okay with, to take an example of something I know is on there, I'm okay with parasites in general. I just don't want my character to have any, you know, to have that happen to them. Anything like that I can put in the notes. The other thing we have on this tab is our romance checklist, which I mentioned earlier. This is essentially just a way of letting us, letting everyone know if your character, if you, I shouldn't say if your character, if you as a player are okay with your character potentially being involved in romantic relationships, whether that be with player characters or with non-player characters. As I mentioned, in this game, non-player characters aren't really going to come up much at all anyway, so less of an issue really. Certainly not in the sort of way that like the AGM will say, oh, this person might be hitting on your character, because generally the only NPCs that will be introduced will be kind of introduced by that person anyway. Again, as I say, these are all kind of focused on the player, not on the character in particular, as I say. So these are a safety tool thing. Do bear them in mind. And also, obviously, just because a player has said that they are okay with pursuing romantic subplots in general, with player characters, that doesn't mean that they automatically do want to interact with every romantic subplot that is thrown their way. And obviously, that's still kind of down to people to say yes or no on the specifics as and when they come up. Cool. So I'm going to pause our recording quickly just to go over our lines and veils and stuff, so we don't have that an artifact of that. So yeah, as I say, we'll do our kind of world building-y type stuff now. We have on that in general tab, there's a couple of notes on here that were already on the character sheet that are basically about how the game works in general, which we'll touch on shortly. And then we have I've put in here just a little very quick grid just for a quick palette, which we'll go through in a second, as well as just a space to note down any certain details that we want to record for our posterity. But as I say, we won't make too big a deal of this. Most of the detail of our characters and the universe they inhabit, we will sort of drive out through play anyway. But I think it just helps us to kind of get, because like, you know, sci-fi is a big genre, and you know, people can come in with very, very different ideas on what they're looking at that don't necessarily jive if what one person is if one person is playing Star Wars and one person is playing The Expanse sort of thing. It's so yeah, as I said, I've put in here a little table for the palette. This is something I've stolen from, well, numerous things, but I think certainly Microscope is the first place I saw it. But the idea with this is that we have a little column for yes and a little column for no. This is a little bit less kind of strict, as it were, than our lines and veils and the like. This is just kind of things that we would like to see and things that we wouldn't like to see. So I'm going to go around and solicit things from people from either the yes or the no column until, basically, I'll just keep going around until we feel like we're all in the same sort of place. And I'm going to kick things off, actually, just to give us somewhere to start with. And the thing that I would like to avoid, actually, the thing I'd like to put in the no column is, again, this was a perhaps controversial one, given that we are, you know, Mass Effect is one of the inspirations, but I would like to avoid kind of either like hive minds or unintelligent enemies, those kind of like faceless horde BioWare enemies, because I just don't find them very interesting, honestly. But yeah, Rich, I'll come to you. Is there something you either would like to see or that you would rather not see in our game?
Well, this is a Mass Effect thing that I do want. Want faster than light travel via either like a gateway or a mass drive system, meaning in Star Wars, you could just plug it into your hyperdrive and go wherever. I kind of like the idea of channeled faster than light travel. I think that's neat.
Jump points kind of
exactly. Jump points, jump gates or mass drivers. Yeah, that kind of thing.
Yeah, awesome. That's cool. I like that. Gives a good excuse to have like lots of stops on the journey as well, rather than just flying straight to Mordor. Awesome. Yeah, Joe, anything you would like to either see or you'd rather avoid?
I would like to see, and this is both a Star Wars and a Mass Effect thing, I would like to see biotics/psionics/ the Force. Cool. However we end up envisioning that.
Yeah, some sort of like extra physical weirdness. Yeah,
exactly.
Awesome. And Brandon, how about yourself? Anything you either would like to see in this or you'd rather avoid?
I would like to see bioengineered people.
Cool.
Ideally, if the practice is badly thought of.
Cool.
Synthetics and the like.
Cool. Awesome. Something I would quite like to see. I think, and I'm going to again frame this, I suppose, mostly in I want to see. This is a difficult one to frame in the way I'm envisaging it, but I'm interested in seeing like the ultimately, I guess. I phrased it as a crew sort of doing what's right. The sort of the idea. So I want what I would, and then it's kind of a partly a yes, a partly a no sort of thing here. I would probably like to the sort of the sort of Mass Effect thing of like, well, I'm going to ignore all the rules of engagement because damn it, I know what I need to do, and it's to blow up this planet. And it's like less interested in that sort of thing. I'd rather it be more on the side of like, this is the right thing to do, even if it's kind of maybe not the sensible thing to do. I don't know if that distinction makes sense, but that's kind of the
more boundaries.
Yeah.
We're if I'm understanding correctly, we're much less likely to ignore large swaths of people and their lives in pursuit of what we're doing.
Exactly.
We're much less likely to blow up an entire jump gate because doing so will like put off the invasion a little bit longer. Not referencing anything particular in Mass Effect 2 that bothered the hell out of me.
Yeah, cool. I'll just go around quickly. Rich, was there anything else you wanted to add either into the yes or no column?
Sorry for the long pause.
No, that's okay.
Thinking.
I'm trying to decide. I think this is a yes column. I want there to be I never know how to pronounce this word. Hegemony? Hegemony? I want there to be sort of a large galactic, or yeah, at least one galaxy, but ideally several galaxies, like a social standard that is seen by many people as being the right thing to do.
Well, it's a social standard because hegemony, to me, makes it sound like a government.
Right.
Which is a very different thing.
Yeah. Are you sort of thinking like the Federation in Star Trek kind of idea, or?
I'm thinking a bit more like the Empire, just less like obviously fascist.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Not because I don't want there to be fascists in the game, but just because I want there to be. It's less about we are the Empire, we're going to crush you, and it's more like we're the Empire. Come take our aid package. And hey, if it also means that you have to transform your entire society so that you're like us, well, that's fine.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
Hegemony. Thank you. You gave it to me phonetically, and I still said it wrong. Thank you, Richard.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, sorry. And Rich, was there something you wanted to add into either column, or if not, that's also cool.
The hegemonic empire is bad. Just checking in. Like, they're not the good guys, right? Or are they the good guys in your head, Joe?
They're not the good guys in my head.
Okie doke.
But they're not. They're the bad guys because they can't allow for growth. Does that make sense?
Okay.
You know,
so
the example
a rigid government.
Yeah. So, I guess one of the things I'd be interested in, because this kind of actually, or has the potential to play into something that I was already thinking of, and that I kind of had a bit in my mind with the thing I just mentioned. But is it possible that our crew is essentially a former Empire military who are kind of now, even rebelling may be too strong a word, but are kind of operating
by yeah, no, that's interesting. I'm still back on hegemonic empire. And so like the Firefly Alliance minus the men with the blue hands.
Exactly. Or the other example I was thinking of was the Jedi Council in the Star Wars prequels. They're this organization that is convinced that they're doing what's right, but they don't see the changes that are going on around them.
Yeah, but they're not a government. The Jedi Council isn't a government. That's just
yeah, exactly.
So
they're not a government, but
so it matters a lot though whether the rigid entity is a government, is the government, or is a government. I mean, the virtue of the sort of Firefly Alliance is that you can have areas that are highly lawful, areas that are border, and then areas that are essentially the Wild West, right?
Right, exactly.
I don't think I want to have the whole the whole galaxy or area of interest be under heavy rule necessarily, exactly. Because that lets out a lot of stories.
Yes, agreed.
So it's a faction, is well, we call it a hegemonic empire is not in control. It's not like the peacekeepers and the Scarens, like that they have everything. You're either in peacekeeper or Scaran territory. It's just a large faction, large enough to call itself an empire, and people don't laugh. Is that where your head? I feel like we're doing too much role building and I keep asking questions. I'm sorry.
No, this is one of my favorite parts, so I'm willing to dive right into it. That's definitely what I'm thinking, and yeah, I like I like the idea that, you know, in name they're in charge of a large swath of territory, but in reality, you know, in some places it's just name only, and it's actually the locals who are running it.
Yep, that sounds good.
Okay, but there's a single large power rather than sort of a balkanized world a la The Expanse, where you've got contending military giants. Let's see.
Well, Brandon's thinking. I have a thought of a yes. I don't know. I did see it in safety in Lines and Veils as something lined out. I am interested, and I guess this is because I play too much Star Wars. So tell me it's stupid if you think in a society where droids or androids or AI have not reached full citizenship status across the galaxy. And so there is that, and I mean, I know we have races and species and all this stuff, so I don't know if that dance is there or not, but the idea of like, some people might go, yeah, you're my friend, and some people might go, yeah, you're like my trash compactor.
Yeah, I
interested
think,
in that.
Well, yeah, not even as a yeah. I'm completely with that, because it's to me it's an extension of sort of the bioengineered people.
Yeah, what I actually also quite like, and the kind of again ties into that. What I quite like the idea maybe that, and I think actually this is also technically a thing in Star Wars. Certainly, the last big Star Wars thing that I got involved into was playing some of the Old Republic MMO again, but the idea that actual true artificial intelligence is still very, very rare, and most droids, even where they start to sort of develop some elements of personality, are still not actually fully
and where in fact poorly informed people could deny that they're sentient. There is real sentience, right? That it's not just very sophisticated machinery.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, you were just programmed to say that.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that'll be very interesting.
Cool. Okay, I'm glad I checked in. I wasn't sure if I should push that forward with some of the lines I saw. So okay, sorry.
No, that's cool. And thank you for the check-in.
I would like a no to, and perhaps this is built into the source material. I would like a no to, or maybe this is a yes. I've always had trouble with characters, with protagonists that are more or less invulnerable, or people who fall 40 feet and dust themselves off, kind of thing. I want there can be I'm fine with having healing medical technologies that that heal people quick and and fix things that we can't fix now, but guns and severe environments and bad falls are really dangerous.
We're not playing. We're playing action heroes, not superheroes.
Or pulp heroes.
Exactly. Yeah.
So as long as so that's if that's already baked in, that's fine.
Yeah.
I like that.
But that's cool. I think that's a good thing to bring up.
No pulp heroes.
No pulp heroes. I like that. I also have a no. It's sort of a no easy access to. I would like there to be no easy access to planet destroying weapons.
Yeah, that is very cool. And as I say, we do have a line on genocide anyway. So
Right,
yeah, I
fair,
think
fair.
But yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's fair. Just as an additional thing on top of that.
Exactly.
That
Not
even
to
as
say, not to say that it's not to say that it's impossible to destroy a planet, but it's like we're not going to come around a corner and then, oh, here's a whole fleet of planet destroying ships.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Oh, and I think my does anyone else have anything they wanted to throw in at this point? The only last thing I wanted to just do was a quick check in terms of like aesthetic, which we can kind of mix and match a bit anyway. This kind of again just goes to my I like that kind of again that sort of Star Warsy type thing where like tech can do a lot of cool stuff, but is still fundamentally recognizable to, you know, a 21st century person rather than being kind of like
Yeah, they're guns are guns and communicators are communicators, and you know, and cars are cars if they, albeit they can fly.
Yeah.
And you know, right.
Yeah, I do like the aesthetic of that.
And again, seems to largely fit in with the sort of Mass Effect sort of idea as well, where it's like, yeah, you know, you might have a core ship that can go invisible and has awesome shields, but it's, you know, it can't kind of reshape the universe around it, and you know.
Oh, I wanted to add something to the yes. This may or may not get used. We'll see. How to say the space strangeness. The idea that there are strange creatures in the void, that there's like haunted ships, that there are things that we can't quite understand or explain yet.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I'm definitely up for that. That sounds awesome.
And I have a no, which is mad science.
Sure.
You can't, you know, you can, if you're a scientist or a technician, you know, you can come up with something clever, but you can't, you can't come up with a grenade from out of what you find in your pockets, kind of thing, or defy a law of physics that that some existing thing doesn't already do.
Yeah, no, that's cool. That's cool. Awesome. So I think I have an idea of kind of where we're all looking at now. That sort of like, yeah. This idea of in general, I think, like picking up on a few of the key things in here, we have this like, obviously we can, you know, advanced technology in terms of like being able to be in space, but still kind of grounded in modern experience essentially, but with some weirdness and inexplicable stuff around the edges, and some social tensions around people who've had bioengineering or who are bioengineered, around artificial intelligences or artificial life forms. And this idea of this big hegemonic empire which controls much but not all of kind of known known space, I suppose.
Sure.
Yeah. So with that, I think actually first what we will do is we'll take a break here as we're about halfway through our session. But yeah, then we will come back. We will quickly go over characters. We'll get those set up, and then we will do. I imagine what we'll get through tonight is our recruitment scenes, maybe a little more, but definitely our recruitment scenes, I think, this time. So yeah, I'll see you all back. Yeah, call it about 5 minutes, and then we'll pick up again then. So yeah, next thing we'll be doing is actually building our characters. There are 6 playbooks available. As I said, primarily what these playbooks will do is just determine kind of what your motivations, what your character is like, that sort of thing. It's a sort of thing to play from. They're not hugely restrictive. The main thing that it will do is that there will be some implied backstory for your character, depending on which one you choose, and it will basically each character, each playbook type, the initial recruitment scene that we have for them is kind of tied into a sort of a bit of an assumed history between them and the captain. So the one you pick will kind of give you a bit of that direction to go in. As I say, mechanically speaking, there's not really any difference between any of them. The only one that has any difference when it comes to the rest of the games in the book is the captain. I think actually what we will do is we'll just do a quick run through of the kind of initial descriptive paragraph for each playbook. I'm going to again go, I have a slightly different order in front of me now just to mix things up. So I'm going to go with you, Joe, first. If you can just read out the kind of descriptive section for the captain that's just there in the character keeper.
Absolutely. I'm the character keeper. You've tried leaving the stars behind, the void, all of it. After the dangers you faced and the sacrifices you've made, your adventures left you with a broken heart. Betrayed by your beliefs, you spent years nursing your regret. But the void calls you again, and all the worlds need saving. If you don't act now, we could lose it all. You can't do it alone. You need to convince your crew to come along. One last time. They have every right to hate you and no reason to trust you. You weren't there for them when they needed you the most. But they can't help but believe in you even after all that you did. Will you prove they were right to trust you again? Or will they die cursing your name?
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And Rich, if I can ask you to read the veteran, please.
You're on mute.
You've tried leaving behind the memories, the love, all of it. After you stood up for the captain and fought for them, they gave up the fight and left you to clean up after them. For that, and for giving up on themselves, you've never forgiven them. But the captain has need of you, and this is your chance to prove you and the captain still have life left in you. You're more than your bitterness and heartbreak. And though the captain sees you for who you were at your prime, the others see a legend whose time is done. They don't think you have any fight left in you. Can't teach an old dog new tricks, but damn if you're giving up. Will you prove that you earned your reputation for a good reason? Or will your hidden bitterness consume you?
Awesome. Thank you very much. And yeah, Brandon, if you would like to read the Reformed.
You've tried leaving behind the past, the shame, all of it. You betrayed your people and all that you stood for a captain who didn't stay when you asked them to. To survive, you ran and spent years looking over your shoulder. But the captain has called you once more, and this is your chance to live up to what they saw in you. You are more than what you came from and what you look like. You can save all the worlds, but the rest of the team sees only an enemy. Despite the captain's faith, they only see the doom that awaits. But they still need you. For your sharp mind and unique talents, will you prove they were right to give you a chance, or will they die because of your inevitable betrayal?
Awesome, thank you very much. And yeah, I will read The Believer. You've tried leaving behind the hope, the promises, all of it. You dreamed about serving the captain for years. When your dream was about to come true, it was crushed by powers and forces beyond your control. But the Captain Hill still has need of you, and this is your chance to prove that your dream can go the distance. You are more than blind faith and naivety. You can save all the worlds, but you have to prove yourself to the rest of the team. The captain recognizes your potential, but they only see one who is untested, undeserving, unqualified. But you've got what it takes. You and the captain will shine together, no matter what. Will you prove how capable you truly are, or will the stars in your eyes blind you to the cruel fate that awaits you? And Joe, if I can ask you to read The Broken, please.
You've tried leaving behind the pain, the humiliation, all of it. You believed in the captain the most, and in return, you were left broken for it. For years, you have been burying your pain in habits that slowly kill you. But the captain called upon you once more, and this is your chance to make them suffer and beg for your mercy. Sure, you can save all the worlds too, maybe, but you're here for vengeance. Your captain still sees your past self shining through despite your pain, but the rest of the crew sees the real you and how far you've fallen. But you know that vengeance will rebirth you, that you will come through shining and whole again. Will you heal despite yourself and come through, or will you destroy yourself and the captain as you wish?
Brilliant, thank you very much. And finally, Rich, if you'd like to read The Strange, please.
You've tried leaving behind the people, the friendships, all of it. The captain tried to convince you that you were as real as the rest, but you knew you were too different, too other, to ever be at home here. But the captain called upon you once more, and this is your chance to prove that you're a real person, that you can save all the worlds, that you are more than the weird and the strange. Your captain sees you as family, a hero in the making even. But the rest of the crew can't ever be the home you need. But you want to be what the captain sees. You want to be just as real as the rest. Will you prove that you feel and need as much as the others? Or will you prove that you are too alien to be trusted?
Awesome, thank you very much. So those are our 6 playbooks available. And I will go back through to see which ones people are interested in. So yeah, I will go back around again in the order I can see people. So Joe, did any of the these playbooks kind of stand out to you?
Yes, there's actually 3 of them that that sort of fit the thought that I have. The Veteran, the Reformed, and the Broken. I'm leaning a little bit more toward the Reformed, especially after our world building, but any one of those 3 will work for me and what I want to do.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds cool. Thank you very much. Rich, how about yourself?
I have some very, very different character concepts bubbling around, so I could play the Broken, the Strange, or possibly the Believer. Notice I didn't say Captain because I'm not going to say Captain.
Fair. And yeah, Brandon, how about yourself?
I'd like to play the Strange, and I'll budge from that if the dynamic is necessary, but that's my favorite. Sure thing.
Yeah, so Rich, does I think from the, if I've got this straight in my head, that it makes sense to go back the other way. So yeah, Rich, Does the broken sound good to you? I think was the
Yeah,
other.
I think broken's
Yep.
good.
Cool. And then
Or did you say believer, Rich? Or just the
Yeah, but I think I'll go broken.
cool. And then Joe, I think reformed or any of the others is also
Right.
cool.
I think I'm leaning into the reformed.
Yep, sure thing. In which case, I will be the captain, as we need to have a captain aboard. So that's that one solves that one for me. Cool. I like it when I don't have to make a choice. It's
we engineered that.
So yeah, cool. So we'll put together our characters now. This is a fairly fairly straightforward process. So what we'll do first is each of us will choose 2 qualities. These are listed on the page for your character in the PDF file. They're also in the little drop downs on your character sheet. So you'll pick 2 of these. You also you aren't required to choose options that are on the list. You can obviously write in something else if there's something else you'd like to put on there. But obviously, the suggestions are all designed to kind of give an impression of that sort of character. And also, Jamie writes really good lists, so do feel free to have a look through those. But what you'll do is you'll pick 2 of those qualities for yourself, and then another player will pick the 3rd one for you. So what we'll do is if you want to have a quick look through those and choose 2, and then I'll sort out who's going where, because I hate doing left and right on a screen because it always confuses me.
Can we do left and right on the keeper?
Yeah, no, exactly. That's what I was thinking. We'll do.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll
Otherwise, there's no consensus.
Exactly.
Where's
Yeah,
left and where's
exactly.
right.
Oh, good. And someone beat me to hiding those. They're the ones we're not using. Thank you for that. We've done that thing again where the order of people in the character keeper is the same as the order of people on my screen at the minute, which is convenient. But
We picked 2 for look as well.
yes, yeah, you can do. You can either do that now, or if you want to wait until you sort your qualities, either is fine. Okay, awesome. So I think we have I think we will have our characters. I'm just coming up with a name for mine. Cool. So the
Pronounce your character's first name.
Hephaistion.
Thank you.
Yes, so I will in fact introduce. In fact, yeah, that's probably makes the most sense to do it. So, yeah, I will be playing the captain, Hephaistion Stern, who uses he/him pronouns. Probably mostly goes by either captain or just his surname. The qualities that I have chosen for him are privileged and haunted. So I'm going to ask the person to my left to choose a third quality for me. So in this case, using the character keeper, that will be Brandon, if you would like to choose my third quality there.
Okay. Taken privileged and haunting.
Stubborn. Excellent. That certainly works. Thank you very much for that. And for my look, I have chosen a soothing tone, a pointed look. And for this one, I'll be choosing the person to my right for my third option. So that will be Joe, if you'd like to choose my third look item there.
Absolutely. I'm really curious to see what you make of this one.
Awesome. Nice. There were several on there that I thought were quite intriguing. I thought they're more interesting. Yeah, exactly, for someone else to choose for me. So yeah, thank you for that one. I also have black gloves that hide secrets. We shall, I'm sure, find out what those secrets are. Brilliant, thank you very much. So yeah, that is our initial look at Captain Stern. So I will throw things then over to you, Joe, if you would like to introduce your reformed, and we will get your additional qualities and looks sorted out.
Absolutely. My reformed is Paul Smiles Provost. He is called Smiles. He/him pronouns. He's called Smiles because he, at least in the old days, never did. He is he's the engineer. He's the guy who handles a lot of the technical issues on the ship. Qualities are pragmatic and capable. And I get the person on my left to choose one more, so I will hand that off to David.
Yeah. Now it's the choice is do I go with the ironic smiles or not? I think I'm going to say that Smiles is enigmatic.
Enigmatic, I like that. And Smiles, look, he has a musical voice. A scar that commands attention. I'd like to change that to tattoos that command attention.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, by all means. You should just be able to overtype on it. It's not a locked field, so it might give an angry red box or something, but it won't stop you from.
Tattoos that command attention. And then third thing, which I will turn over to Rich, if you could.
Yeah. Oh man, I can't resist this. You said you're an engineer. For some reason, you have a weapon that doesn't work as intended.
Ooh.
The Not sure where you'll take that. Should I go next, David?
Oh yeah, sorry. Yes, I was just distracted by playing with the sheet. Yeah, by all means. If you'd like to introduce yourself and your looks.
I'm playing the Broken, and his name is Kodo Celwik. Kodo is sarcastic and brooding. And then you get to choose a third option, Brandon.
Like several of them, a lot. But this one talks to me first.
Gifted. When you read gifted, what do you have in your head for gifted? Like, why did you choose gifted? I'm curious. What about gifted attracted you the most?
There's something I wanted to pick, and feel free to suggest another. I wanted to pick something that it's hard to dislike this guy, to dislike Kodo entirely, no matter how difficult his disposition. Because there's something, so the other ones I was looking at were, were the ones that related to, were attractive or alluring.
Mm-hmm.
But you have, I was thinking in that, for example, he might move really in a kind of beautiful way. Just, this wonderful economy of movement, or just, just have obvious physical gifts that are remarkable, admirable, or just knacks for things, just the ability to, a tremendous memory for facts that he can rattle off, or something, anything like that.
Yeah, no, I like it.
Take it where you want to go. But something, something that you have to like, or that pushes you to like them, even if they are trying their best to be unlikable.
Awesome. And then Kodo's look is that he has arresting eyes, a weapon always at ready, and then a third option, which will be chosen by Joe.
The one that I really like, because it just seems to stand out from everything else that you've chosen so far, hair pulled up in a complicated fashion.
Oh man, I like it, but I chose a different. I already got a picture down there. Okay, I guess we don't see it in the picture. But
that's fine. You don't see it in the picture.
All right, cool. All right.
Maybe it's a little braid, or something like that.
A very complicated braid.
A complicated braid with something woven into it, or something that we can't see in the picture. Okay, so I am playing the Strange, whose actual name is RSE6, but you all used to call me Rose, because RSE6 gets old after a while. Rose is but the captain still used to sometimes call me RSE6, I think sometimes. Rose is a biosynthetic. She is one of a series of purpose-built people created by a very gifted a very a genius in the field, who signs his works. And if you look at her, you can see the marks that she has. She is strikingly beautiful, but has things there that are as artifacts on her skin and things like that are there to make it impossible for her to pass entirely, without her wearing a mask, like the marks in the picture. And she's her bones and skin and such like that have basically been 3D printed, from a master design, and I view her as very much the target of discrimination, because people see her as a mockery of humanity, especially given that she was made to otherwise basically be a work of art. So, Rich, if you'll pick a third quality.
Oh, okay. I thought I did look. Okay.
Feel free to contradict anything I just said. I'll be real good. That was just my idea.
No, I like it. I like it a lot. I'm just trying to figure out. I think there's something about Rose that's just a tad bit distant. Or maybe it's just Kodo's opinion.
No, I think it's the sad. Yeah, it could be the sadness in the eyes. She has sad eyes.
She does.
And
so then the third quality is for David?
David is the third look.
Yeah, sure thing. So I think I'm going to go for a couple of those are quite tempting. I think no, I think actually I'm interested in exactly what's going on in Mystery. That organic heart in a synthetic body is very, very cool, but I think I'm going to go for ancient clothes from another age. All right. Awesome. So we now have a brief idea of our characters. The one thing actually, so I should have mentioned before we got into all the description stuff is if people want to play kind of non-human peoples, aliens, extraterrestrials, whatever other terminology you wish to use, that is also cool. I think I am just going to when I get around to picking a picture, I'm probably going to go for something fairly fairly human looking. So but yeah, if anyone does feel like they want to go sort of something a bit different, that is also cool. We are not required to play humans here. But so yeah, what we'll do now is we'll begin looking at our first mini games. So these I'll kind of give quite like kind of an intro to what the mini games look like as a whole first, before I actually get into the specifics of it. So in each mini game, there'll be kind of a couple of different sections that tell you about it. They will tell you who plays this game. So whoever chooses the mini game generally will get to choose who else is in the scene. Sometimes this will be one person, sometimes this will be everyone. It may be somewhere in between, and sometimes it will say, you know, one person or more if it makes sense, or words to that effect. Often the person who chose the scene will get to make some choices. The person who has joined them in the scene gets to make some different ones about how the thing's set up. There'll be a little bit of explanation on how this should set up, and the idea is here we basically frame a scene around this mini game, and we look at what that scene looks like when we come into it, what's triggered this, maybe what's going on with it in general. There will then be a number of choices. Each game in general is based around making choices. A lot of them are sort of framed in a kind of back and forth between the two people playing it, or the different people playing, if there's more than two. There'll often be a kind of, the first player does this, the second player may choose to respond in such a way, or makes another choice based on that, or whatever else, and it will kind of go backwards and forwards until such a point as the scene ends. Again, there will be rules about when that happens. At the end of, I'm going to say every scene, so every game. I might be wrong on that, but if we are, we'll pick that up when it happens. There is what's referred to as a loyalty draw. One of the characters who took part in that scene will draw a card. The result of that card will determine if and how many tokens are awarded at the end of that game. Those tokens are shared out between the players involved in the scene by one of them, up to their choice. Again, all of this will be kind of laid out in specifics in each game, as it does change between them. The significance of these tokens is primarily in the final mini game that we will play, the final mission. You are required to spend a number of tokens to overcome certain challenges. We'll see that more of that as it comes, but generally speaking, having more of those tokens is good. There are some other situations where you can spend tokens in as well to draw cards, specifically for the loyalty missions, which we'll touch on later. But yeah, in general, you know, the more tokens there are, the better. There are some sort of threshold numbers that you kind of want to have ideally, but again, we don't need to like overthink that part of it right now. The thing in general is just that having tokens is good, and that's sort of what the loyalty draw will determine at the end of most games. So for our first mini game, we will always have the recruitment scenes. These are scenes in which the captain finds a member of the crew in the situation that they find themselves at the moment, and we explore how that goes, depending on where we find ourselves. So the first one, and I am going to take the lazy option here, and I'm just going to go through in order that people are in the character keeper, because I believe that will also be the order that people are in the PDF. So just to make things easier on myself. So the first one we have is the Reformed, and the recruitment mission for the Reformed is called the Hunt. So the setup for this game is that the captain asks the Reformed, who are you running away from, and how do I help you find reprieve? I'm also going to just quickly jump in here and say, just to see how people feel about this in general, do we want to have a quick discussion first on what the nature of kind of our final enemy is, so that we kind of know what we're pitching towards, or are we happy to do that like more organically in play? I think either is absolutely fine, as far as I'm concerned. I'm just wondering if it helps for people to have like a bit of a a target to move towards, essentially.
I would like a bit more of a target.
Yep, certainly.
I think it makes it easier for the captain to have something to pitch.
Exactly.
well.
I think so.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think absolutely. I'd also like to pitch a little bit of world building now that I've seen everybody's characters. Although, Joe, are you thinking of playing? Now that I've seen everyone's characters, I'd like to pitch that we don't have aliens. That there's humanity, and then there's there's things that people have made, and that's pretty much, and that's pretty much it. I think that will cone down things a little in my mind.
Okay.
And so I'm going to propose it.
I'm kind of happy with that, and like maybe the idea that I mean,
there could be aliens. There's theoretical aliens.
Yeah.
And maybe and as I said, there are things we don't know about. There are strangeness in the galaxy. It's possible we could find intelligent aliens, but there's maybe even there's a planet where that suggests that there were intelligent aliens there, a long time ago, or something, but that they aren't. You wouldn't if you met one, you'd be it would be. And you wouldn't expect to meet one.
Yeah, I also quite like that idea, sort of going back to the Expanse, where you have sort of the like where the Martians have started to evolve to adapt to the Martian atmosphere and stuff. They're still, they are still genetically humans, but they have people have adapted to the different worlds that they've generations, and
absolutely. You have places where people look strange.
Because
high gravity worlds or just places where they've been bioengineered. To like the Expanse, the Belters, and who tend to be very tall and thin.
No, but that's I'm good with that.
So let's have a trouble in mind.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what I was kind of originally going from, we kind of touched on this earlier, is I think I think that maybe we all used to serve like the Hegemony fleet, though that is not to say that the mission we were about to embark on is on the behalf of the Hegemony, put it that way.
Right.
It might be something more.
But we're all ex-military, essentially. We were part of a military unit together.
Yep. I think so, or at least again in that very Mass Effect way, where it may have been a very unofficial, assignment to the military, but yeah. But yeah, so I guess what I will throw out is there anything that people are particularly interested in us in trying to achieve with our mission? And obviously the idea with the mission is it is very high stakes, and it is designed to avert some sort of catastrophe that will otherwise befall if we don't do it, right, rather than just being like a tilting at windmills kind of thing. It is
I feel like there's a faction within the Hegemony that wants to start going to war, that wants to start conquering the surrounding areas.
Another possibility is, in that same sort of vein, is that there's a threat of civil war. But and no matter what you think of the Hegemony, or whatever they may be called, that would be a catastrophe for everyone except a very few people.
Yeah, a lot of people would die in a civil war. I do kind of like that.
Yeah. Rich, just want to check in with you. Does that sound sort of interest to you, or is there a different direction you'd like to sort of think about?
Of the two options, like external force bringing war, civil war, I feel like the civil war could lead to some like political questions, conversations that aren't exactly the thrust of a Mass Effect kind of deal.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe external force, and maybe even to put a finer point on it, led by a warlord who maybe we worked with against something in the past, like so and so is back type deal could be a thing.
Yeah. That was kind of the idea, or possibly kind of you know, coming at the Civil War aspect sort of slightly obliquely, in the sense that it's maybe like a kind of someone who is like an official, is like a member of the ruling class or whatever in the hegemony. But this is they want to overthrow the current rulership so that they can wage war across the galaxy, kind of thing. In a way that is
That's still fairly political.
yeah.
A warlord, maybe the warlord is attempting or is wanting to attempt a coup.
Yeah, that was sort of thing I was thinking, maybe. Yeah.
And then so we're not dealing so much with politics, it's just we have a bad guy we have to stop.
Yep.
Maybe there's maybe this turns around a new technology that's being discovered, which has which has dire possibilities.
Yeah. Maybe. And I mean, I know that this kind of cuts across something we set up in the palette at the beginning, but I think cuts across it in an interesting way. Maybe it is kind of technology that allows for slightly more maybe not like your straight up like Star Wars hyperdrive thing, but something like a kind of a kind of warp drive, project thing that only requires like one fixed point rather than point to point travel, so it can be used to sort of
Could be.
Yes.
Although that would be generally, that doesn't sound too bad. I mean, it could be used for war, but it could also be used, for exploration and things like that.
True.
But perhaps, sorry to break. Perhaps that technology has some very serious side effects.
Yeah. Or we could possibly that's the sort of thing we could maybe leave undecided as yet, but I think that honestly kind of warlord with mysterious technology is gathering power in space.
Well, no, I mean, it might be a technology that could be weaponized.
Exactly.
And used basically to compel systems into submission, by threat, some sort of space warping device or something that tears a rift in the fabric of space or causes a star to go nova or something. If it could potentially be made that way, and so the warlord is basically saying, well, this is we should we need to have this in order to protect ourselves. And does that work?
Yeah, that sounds good.
So what if we decided on then there's some kind of warp technology this warlord has? So it's the technology, it's not the fact that they're encroaching on the Empire?
Well, what I was suggesting, and that doesn't, I'm not necessarily expressing everybody's consensus. What I was suggesting was that a technology's been discovered that regarding physics, something about the the nature of fundamental particles or something like that, that could is like discovering radioactivity. It's like it opens up the possibility of making the A bomb. It is something that could be made into a fairly dire weapon, and there is a faction led by this warlord that basically says we need to have this before anybody else does. We need.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
So is the conflict that the warlord wants the technology, or that the warlord had? Like, I'm sorry. I see there's several different ideas, and I'm hoping to coalesce, like, so
Yeah.
I know, because
So-
it isn't about the world. Like,
Yeah.
my read of this is, who gives a shit about what we're fighting? It's about these people who are friends, who are no longer friends, having to get together to go do a job.
Yeah.
So, like, the job doesn't need to be super complex, and I don't want a 4-step plan. Like, I'm trying to figure out, is it he's got a thing and we got to get to the thing first, or is it that he's a threat because he has a thing? Like, that's all. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to shoot down any ideas.
No,
I just want
no.
to make sure it's clear in my head.
What I'm thinking based on this is that, yeah, it's that there is a warlord, who has, I think, yeah, it makes sense if they control this this technology currently. They have already been making kind of, militaristic overtones, and it's
Kind
believed
of
that this
the
could.
North Korea first successful nuclear test type
Yeah,
deal.
yeah.
Like, they did the thing, and that was the spark.
But
Okay.
but
Yeah,
what
I'm
I
into that.
quite like as an idea as well, though, is that maybe they have some sort of understanding with the rulership of the hegemony as a whole, which is why kind of they haven't just sent in the navy and stuff, and why we are doing this as a kind of off the books mission rather than
So officially, the warlord and the hegemony have they're talking stuff out, but we're sent in to make sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
D-
I'm trying to figure an angle for what you talked about earlier about that at any point we could go work for the competing Best Buy idea that you threw out earlier.
Thank you. I like that. Well, I think the warlord, because my character definitely is no longer officially part of the military.
Yeah. So
I think the warlord is making it clear that I think there maybe have expanded. I'm thinking the expansionist in North America. So it's like, hey, would you like some free land on a planetoid to like turn into whatever you want, your own personal kingdom? Well, hey, come and join the warlord. We have it.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, kind of my thought on that as well, on that kind of idea of it, was that if it's one of these things where it's like, well, actually, honestly, the warlord or the hegemony having like control of this thing could both be bad. So
Yeah.
either of them would be willing to recruit us to not do the thing. That kind of idea. That yeah.
I like that as well. Yeah.
Sounds good. We can.
Cool.
That's
Yeah,
good.
cool.
Sorry.
No, no, that's good. I think, like I said, yeah, that gives me a good, strong position to come in for. So yeah, we'll go for, as I say, the reformed. We have the hunt mini game here. So for this, as I say, I'll ask the questions again because it has it's been a minute. The captain asks the reformed, "Who are you running? Who are you running away from? And how do I help you find reprieve?"
So I am running away from the warlord's recruiters.
Right.
They are very interested in recruiting me and are not very interested in, hearing me say no.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you help me find reprieve? we get into a bar fight.
Sure.
You find me in a bar. I tell you to pound sand. And then suddenly the warlord's agents show up and they're not interested in taking no for an answer. So they're going to drag me away. And then you come and get in the fight.
Yeah, that sounds cool. That sounds cool. And is almost exactly the same scene that I played when I was being recruited as the veteran, I think, last time I played this. But anyway, it's a good trope to fall back on. Yeah, and so now the Reformed asks the captain, how have my years of running haunted me, and how am I still beautiful?
Yeah.
So I realized I asked those questions to myself. Yeah. So I think I think that it is just that kind of thing where clearly the time spent generally kicking around the fringes of space and maybe not working quite as regularly and not having a settled life have just led to Paul just looking a bit tired, looking a bit gaunt, not seen enough sun or not seen the right sun or whatever else in a while, all that kind of thing. And I think the other thing is, how are you still beautiful? And I think for this, that will be, I think it's just as simple as that, that smile is still there, even if it's maybe takes a bit more effort to put on these days. There's still just that kind of smile and that look that the captain still appreciates. So now we begin the game proper. So the captain. So we both briefly described the setting of the scene, a sentence or two each. So we are in. We kind of have the basics of this set out already. We are in a bar. I think I'm going to ask you what's this bar like that I find you in.
Well, I'm definitely working on the docks, whether it's I kind of want this to be planet bound, so I think this is a bar that caters to sailors and dock workers on a very, it's a seedy part of town, but it's a rich planet, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I think this sort of bar is, it's that kind of weathered looking concrete. There's, the sort of, we'll go with the classic sort of flickering neon lighting that sort of illuminates the water. But I think the water itself has this kind of almost like has a lot of like that sort of phosphorescent algae in it. So there's this like glow of light from the sea itself. And the actual, probably the bar we're in is actually itself fairly dimly lit, but there's just this kind of ambient light from outside spilling in still, even though it's nighttime. Right. So what we do now is you'll see here, this is described as the captain chooses what happens first, the Reform chooses what happens then, and it says the Reform chooses what happens next, the captain chooses what happens last. This refers to the little prompt you see down on the right hand side of the screen. So what I will do is I will choose what happens first, which is I think I'm going to go with the obvious one here, which is our hunters have found us and they crash through violently. So and the way this looks is these These there's several people. They're wearing dark, not like parade uniforms. They're wearing that kind of dark fatigues, but with like insignia on them, and they've got those little black berets on as well. It's, they look organized. They look like soldiers, not like random thugs. There's several of them. They are carrying probably just sidearms, but they come into the bar already kind of drawing guns and pointing them. This isn't a kind of casual entrance to the bar. So what you will do now is you will pick one. So where I picked our hunters and founders, and they crashed through violently, you'll essentially pick like one of those other responses and then sort of detail that how you wish.
I like, and I rush to your aid, but you prove you never needed me. Kind of like that idea. So I've been handling this for years now. These people showing up and trying to recruit me. So I start off by trying to talk my way out of it. That doesn't work. And so I go to the old standby, which is I throw a mug of the local ale at them. And then I'm going to pull out my weapon that doesn't work as intended. So I think I have a laser sword. But the laser sword doesn't turn into a blade. It just kind of turns into sort of a fractal mess. But that fractal mess happens to be very, very good at repulsing weaponry. So I kind of pull that out as a shield to protect me and the captain. But then you as a captain, we've already gone into a fight. So I think you as a captain find a way to defeat them, whether it's you're carrying weapons or whether it does turn into an actual bar fight. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think maybe you kind of you have this repulsor shield thing going, and it kind of throws them back, but they kind of dart to sort of come around the edges, and I think this is just the point where I think the captain's maybe even, but like I think Stern has sort of fallen back. Is in kind of is not in military garb at the moment. Is in a sort of unobtrusive looking outfit, but with those black gloves on still. And as they kind of push him, he sort of staggers backwards, hits the floor, knocks over one of the big stools, and just brings it around and sweeps their feet out from underneath them. Kind of leaps up and like cracks these couple of people both around the head and says, "Well, come on, let's we'd better make a run for it. Smiles, let's not take up too much of these people's good time." And now you get to choose what happens next. So you get to essentially choose one of the headers, and then I'll choose the follow-up to that.
All right, I'm ready to go. I have to finish my drink first. The next thing that happens... Yeah, let's go with innocent bystanders are caught up in our chase.
Cool.
So don't turn off the mic. At some point when we're running away from the hunters, we end up leaving the... Maybe this ends up being a car chase, but we end up leaving the sleazier part of town and getting into more of the touristy part of town. And our chase ends up involving a bunch of people who are there, like a tourist group, literally a tourist group. And so we're trying to dodge around them. And the hunters who are following us, they obviously don't care as much about it as we do. And so what happens next?
Yeah, it's like it always feels like a boring, but I'm going to go for, and I risk getting us captured, and I'll always choose the common good. I think Stern swears, hits the console with a palm, kind of looks back over his shoulder again, and sort of pulls into a big fishtail, not just kind of avoiding the tourists, but actually kind of throwing us down a narrow alleyway, kind of leading almost back on ourselves. It gives our pursuers a chance to kind of get ground on us. The back of our vehicle is shut out with their sidearm fire, but it does draw them away from that crowd of people as we escape. What happens now? The hunt draws to an end. So I think what we will see is we do get that moment of like as coming out the other side of the alley, and maybe like leaping down this sort of big one of those big like kind of what's the word I'm looking for, terrace things down onto sort of the maybe down actually onto the beach below, as we sort of got to zoom off in a cloud of sand. But the last thing we do when we end the hunt, I ask you a question, which is, what will make you betray me?
I'll betray you if I find out that you if you're not choosing the common good.
Cool. Yeah, it's very fair. Awesome. I like that a lot. And then you have a question to ask me.
What makes you trust me anyway?
I think that it's the fact that there's a part of Stern that's always known that was the deal. And it's it's almost like that kind of Smiles maybe acts almost like as a conscience for Stern, and he knows that risk is always going to be there.
I like that.
Cool. And now the last thing we will do is we will I will draw a card, so I'll go over to the playing cards dial. Also, I'll put that link in again, Brandon, if you don't have that. As I say, it's not too important anyway because we don't actually have any. Oh no, I think everyone's in. No, cool, because we don't have to really do much manipulation of these cards. So I'm just going to draw the one off the top. It's gone automatically into that discard bit. So, and I have got a 5 of diamonds. So when I draw a card. On a 5, I take 2 tokens, and the Reformed decides how to split those 2 tokens. So basically, you can either give 2 to yourself, 2 to me, or we can take 1 each. But you get to make that choice.
I think right now 1 each makes sense.
Perfect, sure thing. Awesome, and that is our first little mini game done. So this is kind of the structure that all of them follow. They're obviously each one is a little different, but that's kind of how it works. What I do want to do now is just check in with people. We've got 15 minutes left on our time. I guess the sort of the 2 questions I have are people able to run over a bit at all? If not, that's perfectly fine. If people have other things to do, I just want to get off. That's all well and good. And if not, do people want to like try and pull through at least one more now, or shall I just leave it there and pick up next time? Again, I'm happy either way.
So this week, but not the future two, I do have a hard stop, so I can't go
No.
over, unfortunately.
No, that is absolutely fine. That is absolutely fine. So yeah, I think in which case I don't want to push us hard up against a time now. I don't want to constrain us. So in which case I think we will stop there for this evening.
Okay.
And we've got the chance to at least see the first one in action. We've got a lot of stuff to work with for next time. So yeah, we'll pick up next time. We'll start off with the other two recruitment scenes for our broken and our strange, and then we'll get into the rest of the games proper. Obviously, on this basis, I think it's highly unlikely that we will be in a position to get to the final the final mission next time. So we will almost certainly be over into the third week. But that's awesome. So thank you very much, everyone. It has been a lot of fun. I'm going to stop our recording now. No, wait, I'm pressing the wrong button. I was about to just end the call, which was not what I was intending. So yeah, if you have been watching, thank you very much.